How's it going? This is your local idiot again. I had a tiny little thought I'd share it with you. Sorry about that. Um, so, this is the end of the summer in the place I live. It's like middle of September. And it's not snowing or anything yet, though, thank God. Um, so, a while back ago, I was on a business trip uh, going from, and I think I referred to it many times as an adventure because, kind of felt that way. But anyway, I was driving from Iowa to Oregon, uh, wanting to start my new business called Sunshine Home Cleaners LLC. And while I was out there for 3 weeks, like staying in my van that I converted the whole bit. And I discovered that, I kind of put everything together. I kind of ran all the scenarios of what I needed to do and discovered that the one main thing I was going to have to do before I actually began the business, besides hire and train people, was have a digital marketing uh, company do my marketing and to get it off the ground, and then also a CRM software, really competent CRM software, because that was going to make the difference of hiring people, old school, like answering services and stuff like that, which is extremely expensive, as I found out, or having people be able to book online or call, the landline that some folks would rather use, but then still be able to operate like you do with a pharmacy and stuff like that, which is an automated system, and where that you can schedule an appointment, uh, or whatever. The website should be there to answer lots of questions, and at some point within a few months of beginning, there will be plenty of survey, like reviews and stuff like that you can look at. But a lot of people want to know, they want to see the packages, the pricing and what you get for it and things like that. And at some point will be, ranked by the BBB and all that kind of stuff. So those things will all be there. But the customer relationship management system is where you book appointments, whether it's online or through the phone system, and the website is where you pretty much get all your questions answered about the service, uh, what we do, what our point is, and then the digital marketing is their actual commercial spots, not like somebody talking or whatever, but like a posting in variety of different kinds of places on the internet. I mean, these days, pretty much every demographic, for the most part, except for weirdos, um, get online quite a bit. Whether it's social media of the variety of there are out there, or just looking for stuff. So anyway, that's where our marketing is going to go for the most part, I believe. It's the best bang for your buck. And the occasional other kinds of stuff, like um, I've determined that being a member of the Chamber of Commerce wherever you go is a big deal, because for the minimum membership, um, you still get commercial spots, basically marketing opportunities that are included. And it's actually from what I've I've physically gone to some different chambers, and it's actually quite a good piece of advertising. So it's very inexpensive too. So other than the normal digital marketing that'll go through the company that I'm going through, and the company is called Thrive, and it's spelled Thryv. I've talked to them several times. I've gotten a presentation and stuff like that. They're the bomb, and I've done a little research on them and stuff. And everything I've seen so far, they're the ones. The only problem is, which is not a bad thing. It is what it is. If I owned that company, is what I would do too. Is it costs $500 to $800 a month depending on what package you're getting. So I determined that one thing I would have to do before I'm able to really get it off the ground is I have to have an income to afford to do that stuff correctly. Anything else that needs to be done, I can do myself. I'm in the process of doing several different pieces of it. Like I say, I've done all the beginning legwork, like the business license and insurance and all those kinds of things. I've done a rough business plan and stuff like that. And I just recently, that's just been done for quite a while. And I just recently wrote a business plan presentation to potential investors, and I'm still not decided that I'm going to ever seek out investors, because that can come with its own set of problems. Which, to be honest, starting a new company and all the things that go with it shouldn't be stressful. In my opinion, they should be fairly comfortable, because if you're not comfortable, you miss things. Stress causes some weird things to happen in your head, and I am no exception, even with a lot of experience and stuff. And so having investors just adds a whole other facet that of obligation, and of hoops to jump through and people to keep informed and all that kind of stuff. And it's kind of like project management, where that a project manager is running around like a chicken with their head cut off a lot of times. I admire good ones. I've seen plenty of bad ones, and I've only seen a few of the ones I admire, because they've just got mass energy, and they are extremely organized, like from birth, I think, because they have so many different things to do, and one of the biggies is investor relationship management. So, or stakeholder relationship management. So, I mean, they don't necessarily have to be investors or whatever, but that's the biggie. You got to really keep those people happy, especially the ones that are influential. So anyway, I was, when I was still out there, I was actually sought work there to see about getting that going, and the stuff that I needed all required me to have a physical address. I got a PO box for the business when I was out there, and I even paid extra for the service that the postal service does of allowing you to use their street address. So it doesn't say PO box da 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 da. It says whatever the post office's street address is, and then it says unit da 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 da. Well, everywhere wanted to see my driver's license, and my driver's license was still an Iowa driver's license, and they all wanted it to be an Oregon driver's license with the Oregon address. So I'm like, all right, no problem. So I went to the DMV, went to switch out my driver's license and use that address like the Postal Service provides, and the DMV is like, yeah, nice try. We know this address, so can't use it. I'm like, oh, okay. So basically, the only way I could, and it sounds really weird, but the only way I was going to get a job in Oregon was to have an apartment in Oregon. And so I was like, no, fuck that. Even a at like an RV park or something. Because like I say, I was staying in a converted van, which is an RV. Even an RV park wasn't interested in having me because my van is a 2008, and they required that the oldest vehicle you could have at the RV park was, and this is several, everyone in the area, was like a 2013 or something like that. So I mean, 2013 is pretty damn old still, but yeah, no go. So I ended up just, I while I was there, I collected a ton of information, and it's how I found that company Thrive. There's lots of companies that do what they do. They're just the best for what my purposes are. Um, so I came back home, and then immediately started working on getting an income that would support the new business. Now, at the same time, my wife is has been a property manager for big properties. Like a really well established company that's all over the country, and she's got two master's degrees. Brilliant person, and they've just given her a promotion, which in my opinion is way overdue. But they've just given her a promotion in within the company where she will be a traveling property manager specifically for underperforming properties. So when the company determines that they've got an underperforming property or a property in real trouble that way, um, and they've tried everything they could and nothing's working, this is a case where the problem could be the regional manager. It might not be the property manager. It could be the regional manager that's the problem. So they basically had to bump her up to a level of equal to a regional manager, and they'll send her to different properties all over the country to assess and fix those properties. I mean, and it could be, her recommendation could be, hey, your regional's a problem, and or it's not just who, pointing fingers at who's the problem, but maybe train those people up. This company's big enough to where that they have like their own schools. It's sort of like a training session, and I believe they're in Colorado. But for regional managers, for property managers, for maintenance managers. So I mean, the idea is, I mean, you could have several people that are the problem. Usually, it stems from one individual, and it almost always flows downhill. Never ever flows uphill. But where that the assessment goes in, and that's all it is. It's a comprehensive assessment goes in, and the people above regional are made aware. Usually, the asset managers and stuff like that, and then recommendations are made. I mean, and it could be anything from depending on how much history the company has with this property. They may have already tried some of this, but they just need another person to go in, boots on the ground, and make an assessment and say, hey, this is going on, this is going on, this is going on, and here's what we need to do to fix it. This is what the potential is. This is what it is now, and you can boil it down to where that it's like, hey, you've got some personnel issues, and they need some it's a learning opportunity for those guys. And if those people are amenable to that, great. Send them to some learning, things, because the company's already tried everything before they send in somebody like my wife to do a boots on the ground assessment, and they go from there. So her job is going to be one of those things where that they send her to some place for a few months, and then they send her to another place for a few months, and they send her another place for a few months. And so my job, my income that I'll be having for this other job needs to be mobile. So it needs to be remote in the sense that I can be anywhere. I don't need I can't go and have a 9 to 5er, I can travel to something, no problem. So what I decided to do was create another. I'm addicted to entrepreneurship apparently, but uh, I'm creating another business, uh, and it's a consultantship. Um, and I decided to do it in something I know this time. You know, the cleaning business for Sunshine, I on purpose chose cleaning for several reasons. One, because it's a very inexpensive to get into, you know, as far as investment goes and stuff. Um, because I do not want to take any loans. I'm really trying to stay away from investors and stuff like that. You know, I've done a lot of research over time, and the most successful businesses out there either started out with a ton of money, uh, and some just really talented, highly educated people to math people to run the whole fucking thing and dot all the I's and cross all the T's and just make it easy and where that everything's perfect. Or people that got gobs of money from like their grandparents who were rich, who would never give them shit about paying it back or how fast to pay it back or the interest and da 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 da. Then there's the rest of us who would have to either go through a bank or have investors that are looking at ROI. You know, they're looking at timelines, they're looking at everything, and then it's just me dealing with that. And I am not. First off, I'm not a math person. In that, I could never be an accountant. I would hate my life. You know, some accountants love their life because of that. Some people love factory work, you know, and I live in a place where that tons of people, you know, the majority maybe in my area are factory workers. If you want a decent job or decent pay, where that somebody goes into the same place, the same time, and does the same thing, and then goes home, and then it's rinse and repeat every day. That would just actually kill me. I might as well just, you know, run and jump in the river and stay there. Don't try to swim out. So for me, I'm really good. My brain works really well at large numbers. Okay. Meaning that I can see the direction I need to go based on this market principle or or being able to look at something from a 30,000 foot view and say this is what's going to pay off um, if we do this. You know, it'll pay off this way, and I can even articulate it on paper, no problem, or on the computer for a presentation. But the daily having to constantly calculate and constantly do a spreadsheet of these are the payments that are going to, you know, the bank or investors or something like that. There's already enough bills to pay with a new business. To add all that stuff, if it's not necessary, it's not something I would ever do. It's just not smart, in my opinion. So I'm staying away from that. So the income thing is what I need. I need to be mobile. Um, and so I think I need my own thing. And it's got to be uh, as a consultant so that I can, you know, travel. And it's basically, it's funny, what I came up with was something very similar to what my wife does. Now she actually, it's funny, one of her degrees is an MBA, like mine, even though our MBAs are different. Hers was, I think, just in management, and mine was in project management. So my theory was I come from construction and property repair, like construction repair, electrical, everything background. And project management is really, really relatable to any of that because, in my opinion, everything's a project. Going to the store for the groceries is a project. If you make a list, that's how projects work. You know, and all the stuff of getting down there, getting the stuff, coming home, putting it all away, that's a project. And so, to me, in my opinion, in management, business management, everything is a project. If you look up what project management is and read the basically the definition and the details, you'll find out that what I'm saying about being a business manager, whether you're a manager of McDonald's or whether you're the manager of a Walmart or whether you're the manager of a small business that you own, it's all projects that need managing. And so to me, that's what my focus was in my MBA was project management. But now in my bachelor's degree, my focus was marketing because I actually have always loved marketing. I've had several businesses, and I've always loved the marketing part of it. And I used to remark to myself that it's too bad that I didn't have more early experience in marketing because I would have done that instead of, building repair or maintenance or whatever. And so my early background for many, many years was in building houses. The first thing I ever did was apprentice to be an electrician. Then when I went in the military, I learned communication, electronics, and how all that kind of stuff works. Not fixing machines necessarily, though I learned that too. But I learned combat communications, not as a radio operator or something like that, but as the person that oversaw all field communications. I was the one person that was paying attention to what everybody was doing, rather than learning just one of the jobs. I had to learn all the jobs. Then my third thing that I did was that was of any consequence, other than learning how to work, was building houses for a big company. Then once I learned that skill, I went on to working for hotels and then property management companies doing property maintenance, like not plunging toilets, that was the hotels. But, the everything, electrical, carpentry, plumbing, and just everything you can imagine in a house or in an apartment that can break. And my very first job with property management was the company I worked for was also the construction company that built the places, and then they handed over the one part of the division of the company handed the properties over to the property management division of the company, and that's who I worked for. And so my first real job as a maintenance person was accepting brand new properties, and going through and doing the quality control on those, and then basically getting the builders to come back and repair stuff. You'd be shocked at how much they get wrong. Like receptacles that on the walls, that have no wire running to them, or toilets that are plumbed with hot water rather than cold water, because you'd be surprised how bad it would be to have a hot toilet. It's not that they're not usable, they're just always steamy. Yeah. Or I suppose it would cost $1 million a month to pay for your hot water. But then from everything from that to the buildings settling and cracking and stuff like that. Imagine for a maintenance person, every time somebody moves out, all the work you have to do to make it look brand new again before the next person moves back in. And that's literally the definition of maintenance. So I got the benefit of taking on brand new properties. And it was so simple. All I had to do was keep them looking brand new, because that's maintaining, And I did that for years and years, and I was really lucky. My first assignment, my first company in the property management thing, I had a very senior supervisor, and this guy had been there and done that, and over and over and over. And he was just about ready to retire, but before he did, I got lucky enough to be trained by him. And what I learned was that a maintenance supervisor, which is the person on a property, 250 apartments or something like that, They have a really big job. They have a lot of things to do, and that's different than the rest of the maintenance guys. They're the ones that supervise, obviously in the title, the maintenance guys, but they do so many more things that a poorly trained maintenance supervisor will not know to do. And I feel sorry for every single property manager that gets a poorly trained property or maintenance supervisor, because the things that have to happen in maintenance that the maintenance supervisor is supposed to take care of ends up falling to the property manager. So that property manager becomes a one-legged person in a butt kicking contest, and they're spread too thin. My wife has been managing at a property that has a maintenance supervisor. She disagrees with me. She's never seen a good maintenance supervisor, unfortunately for her. Even though she's got a lot of experience, she's just never worked with a really good one. One that does all the stuff they're supposed to do. And the one they've got now pretty much laid down the law when he first got the job, because my wife's supervisor liked the guy. Nothing to do with his abilities, just liked him. And so one of the other problems that my wife deals with, which is now why she's one of the excellent people for that job, because she can see what it's like when you have a person above the property manager that is hampering a property. Now, my wife's property, even though it's very big, never underperformed. I mean, it's, in her opinion, there was some times when it underperformed, but I know what the numbers are. And so it never, the metrics are always work perfectly. And it was only because of her competence. Like I say, she has 2 master's degrees. One of them is an MBA, and the other one is the school that she and I went to. It's the only school that offers this particular master's, which is called performance improvement. And it's not an efficiency expert. It's literally designed pretty much for any business that is underperforming and there is room to improve. And they made it into a master's degree. So she was able to go through an entire, graduate degree of basically just learning how to organize and then convey to a team individually how they change what they're doing to improve not only the company's lot in life, but their own. I mean, you can have a job, anybody that has a job that you somehow feel inside that could be done better, or it could be done more efficiently or whatever. But the frustration is you don't know how, because you just don't have the 30,000 foot view. You're on the ground, and sometimes you're stifled by that. Well, my wife is that person that knows how to break that all down, and it's her education. And it's the only school in the country, at least at that time, that offered that master's degree. And so she's uniquely qualified for her new job. And then I just have a master's degree in business administration, an MBA, lowly MBA. And but my background's in all that maintenance and repair stuff. And I was, like I say, I was very, very lucky to be trained by the right person. I mean, in 2 years after I went to a different company from him, he retired, and so nobody ever had a chance after that to ever get exposed to that. That particular company I worked for, when I was being mentored by him, He lived in a town an hour away and worked at supervised properties up there, not just his property, but other properties. And so in my town, my company built 4 or 5 other properties. So it was 250 units per. So that was a lot, and I had to assess and hire and then train all the maintenance people for all the other properties because my property was done first. I was hired first, and then I was trained by that other or that maintenance supervisor, old school maintenance supervisor, on how to do that. So I'd how to do my job, and then basically once you know how to do my job properly, then you knew how to do all that other stuff. So I had some great, great, great experience. Really, timing is everything experience. So my new business is going to be that. It's going to be called Professional Maintenance Consultant, basically. So I'm going to put it out there. I've already drawn everything up. I'm going to put it out there to where that properties that are underperforming in the maintenance department, right? Because I will say this too, it's shocking how many management people, property management, or uh, regional managers, or even asset managers who don't know a thing about maintenance. I see a lot of property managers, and I mean the vast majority of them, it's a foreign language to them, and because of that, there's a traditional division between property maintenance people and property management people, whether it's leasing, office, and all that kind of stuff. There's these two separate things that are almost always at war. They're they don't speak the same language, and one outfit is in charge of the other, and so they constantly ask for things that aren't deliverable. And by the same token, the maintenance department, if they're poorly run by the maintenance supervisor, the property manager has way, way, way too much to do, and they're not trained for it, and so they're doing it half-assed. They're great at property management, at leasing, at curb appeal, at marketing and stuff. They just suck at the at the maintenance, because there's a lot of planning. There's a lot of strategy involved in being a maintenance supervisor, and you know, budget work and things like that. That it's unfortunate when a property manager has to do all of it, because they're really spread too thin at that point. So anyway, my business will be go in and do an assessment, a good quality assessment of what the property's got going on now, whether what it's, the size of the property. There's a formula how many maintenance people you need, you know, and it's people think of older properties versus newer properties. Newer properties have their own problems, and so older properties and newer properties have as many problems. They're just not the same problems. But number of apartments and square footage of the property. Some properties are really, really separate. So one property is fine with having golf carts. Another property needs pickups. And but number of apartments determines number of maintenance people, and then so you assess what the property's doing correctly and what they need help with. And very often it's simple training. You know, the numbers of people that's the easiest thing to fix. That's an industry standard that a problem again. When I say industry standard, there's a ton of property managers, regional managers, and even asset managers that do not know what the industry standard is. They don't know that there is one. There's huge organizations out there just in property maintenance, that teach it and stuff. And I have taught with a couple of them before. So anyway, that's why I'm doing that. So the idea is sometimes you need to repair an underperforming property. Sometimes a bank takes over a property because they've been so poorly managed, and the numbers get low enough to where that the bank steps in and says, okay, you can be in place. This property management company can be in place, but you'll be taking orders from us now. So the bank either hires a manager, or they have like a loan officer of some type that goes in and basically supervises everything. And they're making changes as they go. And surprisingly enough, banks hire people like me to go in and help on the maintenance side, to give them a new direction, or determine if that is an issue for that property. And then also accidental owners. Somebody dies and has an investment that they leave to people who've never been involved in anything like that before, but they own it now, and so they don't know anything about it, and they need help, and so they need somebody to come in and build a program that's specifically for that property. Tell them how many people they need, do some training of people. And there's a lot of detail, but it's entirely doable. It's very easy if you just follow the simple directions. And it's one of those things that it's not one of those things where it really takes money to make money kind of a thing, as much as you would think. Those things pay for themselves. ROI. You've got to have return on investment, meaning it's got to pay for itself, or there's no point in doing it. There wouldn't be property investment if it didn't work like that. So, and even mom and pops that travel during the wintertime, they have properties that they need to have people take care of, when they're gone. And I don't really want to do a bunch of single family home stuff. But what I can do is find property management companies that are comparable, to what they need, and give them recommendations. So that's what I'm going to be doing. Anyway, so I don't know. My wife has just started her new job. She's not officially even in the training yet for her new job, to get with her, in line with what her company wants. That'll take about a month or so. She's got like 2 or 3 different groups of classes that they want her to take with the company. And then we'll find out where her first assignment is. So, I mean, I've heard a rumor about Baton Rouge. I live in Iowa, by the way. I've heard a rumor about Minnesota, Minneapolis or something. But I was recently shown a map of all the properties that they have all over the country, and they're everywhere except for the West Coast. They don't like blue states, I guess. A lot of restrictions on property owners there. Which is unfortunate, because I would prefer to live on the West Coast. That's where I'm from. But it is what it is. I hope we get Baton Rouge, because I used to live in New Orleans, and I can make Baton Rouge work. But either way, that's my consultant business. And so even though I was on one adventure, now I'm on another adventure so that I can get back on that original adventure. I know. So the consulting business, I think, will be very profitable. And at one time I considered it, and I decided to do something else instead. But now I've got to do this so that I can do that. So this has been 8 million years long, this video. Sorry. But now you know where I'm at. And so, by the way, so I shaved. I put a post out there about that, and I'm out of a wild hair, by the way, and I had instant shaver's remorse. I do not look. I don't like my face. It looks so different than when I was younger. People that are 70 or 80, they're like, "You're not even 57 yet. You're a kid." I'm not a kid, and I don't look like it. Anyway, so I decided I'm going to try growing a mustache back. I mean, not try. I'm going to grow a mustache back, and see if it helps at all. I don't know. Opinions are welcome, by the way. Please let me know. Beard, no beard. Mustache, no mustache. You guys are my fashion consultants, not just the public, but you my peeps. I'm one of those people. I'm kind of a little bit of a recluse, you know. I don't people much, but all my friends will kind of laugh when they hear that because when I'm around people, I seem to be a people person, but I don't choose that a lot because people make me itch, you know, a lot. You know, I mean, the inside of my skeleton itches when I'm around people. So I try not to do it. I have I have other kind of peeps. So, but you're my peeps, and my wife's my peeps. I'm good with that. So, give me your opinions, and don't have to spare me. Now, if you're a bad enough dick to me, I might search you out. You don't get to know me a little bit before you do that. You know, I'm not normal at all. I was born on Halloween, man, and I was late to be born on Halloween. I was supposed to be an early September baby, and I wound up making my mom wait until October 31st. And she was I was born in 68. And so my dad and she were in the Navy on the East Coast. And the Navy doctor my mom had said, well, she's like, why isn't he out yet? And the doctor's like, well, he must be in there for a reason. You know, they have their own time. He's developing, you know. And when I was born, I had a tattoo and a crew cut, you know, and I already knew a few cuss words. I mean, my dad was in the Navy, though. That doesn't surprise me. So, yeah. Anyway. So get to know me before you really... I mean, it's okay to give me critical, you know, stuff. But just don't be a dick about it. I watch other people on their YouTube stuff, and some of them I really admire. And people are just mean as shit to them. I mean, like, the only reason they're even commenting is to be mean. And I kind of get that. I do that occasionally, but I mean, I have the urge to do that occasionally. Sometimes I'm in a mood. But I stop short of just being a dick because I don't want to fuck anybody's day up. So beware. I'm a very resourceful person and very detail-minded. I can find you if you piss me off enough. I don't want anybody to worry because I will never try to find normal people or even interesting people. There's plenty of interesting people that, man, I would love to go hang out with them. But I'm not the only one that would want to do that, and there are some of them that are weird. So don't worry. I'll never come find you unless you're enough of a dick. And I'm not even sure I'll come find you, but God forbid you get me in a mood and I start digging. You don't want that. Don't be a dick. All right. Well, you guys have a great day, and I will include you in some more videos because I've got to do stuff like go up into my attic, which is actually not nobody's been in my attic for 35 years, just so you know. And so I'm going to go up in my attic, and I've got to do some rewiring, and I've got to investigate a leak in my roof. It's a very small leak. Still got to pinpoint where it's at. But you never know what I'm going to find up there. This house was built in 1907, and I think it's possible that the insulation in my roof is the original insulation. And I also believe that there are squirrels, raccoons, and birds that live up there. I think there's a zoo. There's no big animals because they'd be in this part of the house if that was the case, like through the roof. But the ceiling, rather. But I'm positive that there are squirrels, raccoons, and birds that live up there. So I'm not necessarily going to evict them. I don't know. Uh, I got to make repairs, and I got to see if they're doing damage. And if they're doing damage, then I have to evict them. But if they're not doing, I'm gonna re-insulate after I do the wiring and stuff. I've got to add some wiring for some lights, upstairs, uh, and I've got to install a new bathroom vent, exhaust vent in the ceiling. I've got one up there. I just got to replace it, and I hope that it was vented out properly. If not, I have to do that. And it's just now, since it's September, it's just now cool enough to get up in that attic and work. Otherwise, it'd be a million degrees. And I got to see if there's any ghosts up there, and if anybody hid old Playboys or, illegal machine guns. Who knows? You never know. When I was a maintenance guy, I used to find crack pipes all the time in people's little hatch. And gay porn. A lot of gay porn found in those. But I did not try the crack. I just threw it away. Gay porn, though, you never know. Might have kept some of that. I have no idea. That was another life. Anyway, you guys have a great day. See ya soon.